all paths and bosses explained. Hopefully these videos are helping you out. If they are, please check out some more videos on the channel. I'd much appreciate a subscribe. A like would be great. But let's jump straight in to this third one. So we'll start with maybe we'll start with the easiest path, which I think is it not that one? It's the one on the left. Trying to work. Yeah, it's the one on the left, I think. The Kingpin. So whenever a mutant attacker parry stun, attacker's parry stun is removed due to purify or cleanse. You instead inflict a passive stun. The stun's not affected by ability accuracy. If the attacker activates a special while the opponent is passively stunned, the stun is paused and the attacker receives a 300% attack boost. So really, you want to be parrying with a mutant before you throw your special attack to do a lot more damage. Defenders under the effect of Unstoppable become stun immune. Every 15 seconds, the defender gains an Unstoppable buff for 5 seconds. This is reduced for each prowess. So if you can have 10 prowesses, they won't be unstoppable at all. So it's all about champions with prowesses and easy access to them. Other than that, you know, you've got the MP Real Defiance. So just where they're immune to all effects of that. But these top three are the main ones. Every boss, every defender has Tenacity, so they will shrug off your stuns a bit easier, meaning you'll get those passive stuns. Looking at the path, Kingpin, keep to an SP1. Korg, bring in somebody like a Bishop or Kitty Pryde or Storm Pyramid X for him, so you're not taking that retaliation damage. And the same for Human Torch, bring in Incinerate Immune Champ. Kitty Pryde, again, works really, really well. Sunspot also works nicely. That is just parry stun, let them shrug it off, throw your special attack, you'll do a ton of damage with those mutant attackers. So not too much to worry about there, just about bringing your mutants in. Probably the easiest path on here if you've got the mutants. If you haven't, you might find it a little bit trickier, but I still think that you guys will be okay. We'll then move across to the right, the next path, Dr. Octopus, a weapon node. You guys know I love weapon nodes. If the attacker has an armor up buff and it's not nullified by an armor break, you're inflicted with a poison passive, dealing direct damage equal to 150% of their attack. To disarm this, you heavy attack while it's unarmed, throw your striker, because they'll do 2,000% damage, and it's a lot of damage. You'll be surprised how much damage this actually does end up being. I didn't do it until, say, the third fight, and then against Guardian I used my relic, and he did so much damage, it was unbelievable. Once it's about to refresh, knock down the defender at the wall, and yeah, it shouldn't be a problem at all. What I will say is that with the last node here, when the defender activates a special attack, you're inflicted with a heal block and an armor break. That will give you the poison, because if you've got champs with armor up and they throw a special attack, obviously that breaks your armor up buff and it will inflict you with a poison passive. If the attacker is struck or blocks an attack while suffering from an armor break, they are inflicted. So once you've captured the weapon node, just hit them as many times as you can with champs who have lots of armor breaks, and you'll do so much damage. Champions to use for this are class advantage champions. Looking at the path, that's really just tech and cosmic. Your cosmic champs, Silver Surfer, Vision Arcus, Terrax, Venom, Angela. Those champs work really, really well for this, because you end up stacking so many poison passives that it does so much damage. You know, it's really quite a fun path, I think. I probably would say it's the easiest path rather than the Kingpin one if you've not got the mutants. So definitely don't be afraid of this path. Your tech champs, you might want to use Try, Warlock, and Rocket Raccoon. They're the two that come to my mind straight away, who will have armor break on them. If you can think of any others with lots of armor break, definitely bring those in. And then finally, for the Black Panther, try and bring in sort of a red Magneto, or use your Silver Surfer or someone like that for that fight. So again, path very simple there. You know, not too much to get your head around. I do think it's probably, again, one of the easier paths in 8.3. And then for the Sauron, whenever attacker activates a striker, you gain 3 armor ups. Tech attackers apply 100% of their armor value to their attack, so the more armor you have, the bigger your attacks will be. Whenever you activate a special attack, they gain a 30% attack boost. So the more armor ups, when combined with your special attack, ends up doing so much damage, which really helps you out. They do have a protection on, so you do need to knock them down to get rid of that. Blocked attacks do cause them to gain power, so be careful that you're not constantly blocking. But other than that, champs on here, easy defenders. Sauron, maybe a little bit tricky in Apocalypse. Bring a counter for Zemo because he can be a bit annoying. But even then, as long... you should be taking him out relatively easy with your tech attackers. Tech champs with lots of armors will work really well for this, because obviously it's boosting their attack rating. These are champs like Nimrod, Red Skull, Civil Warrior. I can't imagine you've ranked him up, but if you have, Iron Man Buff, Vision, Omega Sentinel, Cap, Sam Wilson, those are all champs who'll work really nicely for this. You can bring in your Iron Dooms, your Lady Deathstrike, Shuri, Shocker. They will need strikers though to do that little bit extra damage. So that's it for the paths. 3 very easy paths in my opinion, or 3 easier paths than we've perhaps been used to. Then for the bosses are probably the harder of the bosses in 8.3. I think to have an Antivenom and a Knull there is quite tricky, especially as just defenders. They're annoying. Well, let's look at their nodes and see how tricky their nodes are. We'll start with Venompool, as he is on the left. Your attacker starts with 3 rushdown charges. When the defender dash attack lands or is blocked, it removes a charge. Knocking down the defender restores a charge. When the attacker has no charges, you're inflicted with a stun passive, and they're restored. So it's about keeping your rushdown charges above 0. So try and knock down the defender as much as possible to restore your charges. And really that's about it for the Venompool. It's not too tricky because it's a Venompool. Don't let him hit into your block or hit you, and you won't lose any rushdown charges. That's basically the simple crux of the fight. He is stun immune, so he becomes a little bit harder to knock down. Whenever he would be stunned, you're then stunned for 4 seconds. That lasts for 12 seconds, then goes on cooldown for 12 seconds before it comes back. So he does take more damage while he's stunned, but he is stun immune for the first 12 seconds and on rotation that 12 seconds. So make sure while he is stun immune, don't stun him, because you will be immune. He will hit you and you will take quite a lot of damage. When he's struck, you will get armor breaks, so that's really key for that stun. If you have got a lot of armor breaks set on you and then you get stunned and he hits you, he will do a ton of damage and you will probably die quite quickly. Good champions for this fight are like your Absorbing Mans. Maybe Kingpin will work quite nicely for this because of the shrugs of the armor breaks. Hercules, the Hood, quite a few champs really work for this. I don't necessarily think there's a strict counter. If you play the rushdown charges smartly, Doom also works for this because you can just constantly knock him down. The only problem with Doom is be careful with the heavy stun, because that might stun you. So the Venompool, not too tricky. Just be very aware of the stun, the rotating stun on that, because that fight does then become a little bit harder. Look at Antivenom. So you gain no power from landing or receiving attacks. Instead, you're given 12% while he's suffering from a damaging debuff. So you do need a champ who does damaging debuffs. The defender takes 60% less damage while they have no debuffs applied to them. So again, champs who have a lot of debuffs. Whenever the attacker dodges an attack, you're afflicted with a heal block, a taunt, a disorient, and your block proficiency is reduced by 10%, which it's not ideal, but really try and not get hit by him, and it shouldn't be that much of an issue. I know that sounds easier in practice, but if you've got lots of debuffs on him, then you'll do quite a bit of damage, I think. When he's knocked down, they gain a non-stack and energize passive. With Antivenom, this is a very easy way for him to get to his SP3, because you guys know that he gains a bit more power the more he's hit, that when he builds up those buffs of his own. Try to avoid well-timed blocks as well, because that will put a passive disorient on you. For this, I just bought in champs with lots of debuffs. So I bought in Elsa Bloodstone. I also have a 7-star Jabari Panther who helped for this as well. Kingpin can be used. Black Widow Deadly Origin is a good champ if you've ranked her up. She does a lot of damage. I think probably she's a bit underrated given how useful she would have been for, like, say, the Atuma fight for this fight and a few of the paths. Kate Bishop works as well. I know. Is Antivenom immune to Cold Snap? No, so I think that's also who I used. I took in Kate, Elsa, and that was it, actually. I didn't use Jabari Panther, but I know she'll work with those bleeds. So you've got a few good options there in the skill. You want to preferably use champs with debuffs, or who can shrug off the debuffs he's putting on you. Easy special attacks to evade, but it does take a long time. This fight can take, it took me like 5-6 minutes to do this fight just because it was long. You had to constantly wait for him to throw special attacks. You had those debuffs on you. Yeah, it wasn't ideal. So let's move on to Knull. Probably the hardest boss on here, I think, because it's Knull. His special attacks cost 50% less power. This is not ideal, but if you play this smartly, which I will talk about in a second, then it shouldn't be too much of an issue. Whenever he blocks attack from the defender's special, you gain a Fury. So I think this is for per block, you'll gain a Fury. So on his SP2, if you'll block that whole thing, you'll gain quite a lot of Furies for that. His Fury, Unblockable, True Damage, and Power Gain buffs are paused if you're far away. If you purify a debuff, you take a burst of degen damage, you don't purify, and he has Limber. So for this fight, I used Doom, and that was it, really. What I did was the hardest part of this fight, I think, is to get him to his first SP2, because it's 50% less power every time he throws his SP2, or his special 2 attack. It then takes him down to 1 bar of power, but then with Doom, you're able to 4-hit combo heavy. That puts him to SP2 again. Then he uses 50% of the power, so then he's back to 1 bar of power. So getting him up to 2 bars of power is quite easy. If he throws his SP1, you can be in a little bit of spot of bother. You can bring in a reverse controls champ that I think pretty sure Wiccan is. So he'll work really, really, really well for this fight, because really then Knull doesn't become a problem at all. So Wiccan's probably your best shout. I did bring Dr. Doom in because he's immune to armor break, and his power control worked quite well for keeping Knull to his SP2. It does become an easier fight if he's on his SP2. So I would say if you can get to that and you can get to his first SP2, these fights don't become too much of an issue. So hopefully this 8.3 walkthrough and guide has helped you. If it has, as mentioned at the start of the video, please do like and subscribe these videos. That helps the channel out massively. I'm enjoying it, posting these videos again, so any support would be great. Again, thank you guys so much for watching. Appreciate all your support. See you in 8.3.4. Goodbye.